Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Rebuilding Stockport, the analysis days. The videos that just seem to get longer every time I do them, but then I guess that's what you have to expect. When you ask me to talk for a while, you know I'm just going to keep on talking. So I'm going to just lay out the structure for today's videos before we get in. That way those of you can kind of pick out the sort of stuff you're kind of interested in the future when I can be asked. What I might actually do is include like a key in the comments section so you can actually time skip to certain sections and I will label them all for you like a fucking audiobook. I don't know why I swore there. It just felt good for emphasis. Anyway, so yeah, here's what's going to happen. So first section, those of you that really want to see this stuff, other leagues around Europe, and of course the Premier League, we'll go through all of that stuff first. After that, I'm going to go through each individual player in our squad, show you their profile. Probably won't talk about them all in that great detail, but it means that if you want to look at a certain player, you can have a greater depth. And then after that, we'll get stuck into the league, team and player analysis, and then into the individual player analysis. And if I think of anything else, then I'll be sure to include that as well. And also, if you think of anything else that you might want me to show in these analysis videos, because remember, I've got all the time in the world in these. I don't have to worry about trying to hit certain lengthwise time scales when I normally go for between 14 and sort of 17 minutes for videos. These ones, they can be as long as you want, because let's face it, the guys of you that are watching these videos are probably into that kind of thing already, you mentalists. So, and I mean that in the best possible way, because I'm that kind of person myself. I just noticed Man City's got 107 goals this year. That is freaking amazing. But yeah, so let me know in the comments anything you want to see. So, jumping straight in to the Premier League, just having a little deeper look at this. Leeds go down with 15 points, which has to be one of the lowest totals ever. Sunderland, I think, also got 15, and Derby, I think, got 11 that one year, the year that Fulham stayed up, the Great Escape. Certainly not going to happen this year. Anyway, moving down, just the previous year, I just want to see if anyone's finished lower points tally than that. Ooh, Leeds got 18 once as well. Though Leeds not having the best time in the Premier League, are they? That's a shame. Yeah, so they've set some pretty poor points totals. That you can see, though, one thing I would notice here, you notice how the points needed to survive is dropping off. So that year it was 35. This year it was 36. Then it was 35. Then it was 33. Then it was 31. Then it was 25. And now it's this year where it's actually gone back up again thanks to Stoke and West Brom. Brighton stay in the Premier League with a minus 44 goal difference. That's truly horrendous. The fact also that Everton have conceded 76 goals this season is stupefyingly bad. I want to look at a few things. Firstly, the form and the positions of certain teams. Everton is, for me, they were one of our big rivals towards the start of the year, and I can only assume they had a managerial change. Is that true? Let's have a look. Ooh, can I do that? And now it's frozen. Managerial movements. Did Everton change their manager? Yes, they did. Right, let's have a little look at what happened here. This screen has always been a bit of a mystery to me because it's a bit more confusing than it needs to be. So, poor league position. They sacked the manager. Okay. So actually it was the same guy. But they seem to have only got worse under the new guy. So, yeah, that's a weird one for me. I just want to see if we can look at the past positions here. I just want to see how Everton have done this year. See, this is the thing, right? At one point, Everton were up as high... At match day 12, Everton were sitting 5th in the Premier League, and that's where I was looking at them. Thinking, yeah. And when did they start to... I'm sorry, that's fantastic. Their fall essentially started when we thumped them 6-0. It's like it drained the confidence out of them, as they then went on to lose 3-0 to Huddersfield, 2-0 to Man United. They did bring it back up again, but since then, slooping all the way down to 12th. Leicester again had a weird season too, in that one point they were flying high. Now, it's weird because they haven't really dropped off that much, but at one point they barely gained any points for an extended period of time, which is what allowed us to catch up to them in all honesty. And I mean, I want to see ours. Look at this. That is insane. We started off not too bad, and then we fell down to this sort of dreadful period. Like, we were still in 13th place. On the 17th of January, after we lost 4-1 to Liverpool, we were 13th in the Premier League. And we ended up finishing goddamn 6th on the final match day. That is fantastic. I'm really, really pleased with that. The way we finished is incredibly good. Right, now, yeah, let's beat around the bush. More actual stuff here. So Pellegrini, top scorer, 30 goals in the league. It's crazy. Pedro, though, the second highest goal scorer in the Premier League with 19. As much as I complained at times, and I feel like he still could have had more goals for us, but 19 goals in his first year in the Premier League is bloody outrageous, particularly as that third part of the year we weren't doing that well. So if we'd have been able to do that in the first 13 games of the year, I feel like Pedro could have been into the 20s easily. So that's really nice to see. Anyway, let's look at the other leagues as well while we're here. So Man City win the league, United, Spurs and Arsenal into the Champions League, and there's a huge gap back to us, Liverpool and Leicester. Chelsea missing out in Europe entirely. Sorry, Chelsea fans, I know you didn't want to hear this after your 6-0 defeat at the weekend, but believe me, it could be worse. You could be a Fulham fan or a Notts County fan. There's plenty of worse teams to be supporting right now, trust me. So, moving down into the Championship, which is where I'm kind of interested in. Oh, hello. Of course, yeah, because we're moving further on. This is one of the things I like about the Premier League finishing where it does. We get a little bit more of a window into these leagues. Not quite enough just yet. But, so, yeah, so Palace, Sheffield United, Derby and Crystal Palace and Brentford are in the playoffs. Villa are promoted to the Premier League along with Bristol City. Our boys are back, lads. I have a real soft spot for them in this save for some reason. Really, really pleased to see them come back up automatically. Down go Borough. That's actually really surprising. Preston and Nottingham Forest, less surprising there. Now, where's our man gone? I swear he was in the top 3 goal scorers in this division. Now it's all frozen again. There he is, Craig Palmer, the guy on loan from us. He's still only 20 years old. He netted 18 goals this year in the league for Nottingham Forest. You can't go wrong with that, really, can you, Craig? Super, super proud of him. Next year, I still think he's probably going to be out on loan, but I'm hoping to find him a loan spell at a club in a slightly better position, because if he can do this for Forest, then I dread to think what he can do for someone good. Or we could sell him. If he's worth £8 million and someone's willing to pay, I'll be moving Craigie Boy on, because we've got a lot of money to spend, and I think we're going to need to get some new contracts in as well, because Pedro and the likes, they've got those release clauses, and I want to try and give Pedro a new contract to get rid of that release clause. I know it's going to cost me a fortune in wages, but I'm desperate to get rid of that, so at least I have some control of whether he leaves, because I can convince a player that they don't want to leave. I did it with Frano Fazic. The problem was, when the release clause was triggered, you don't get to try and convince them. It seems that the player has no choice in the matter, which is a bit annoying, if I'm honest. But there you go. That's how the Championship's shaping up at the moment. Let's have a look down in the lower leagues. I wonder how AFC Fylde got on. Also, Bury, you notice they survived in the Championship. Fair play to them on that one. Millwall and Southend in the playoff final for the Championship. Barnsley and Luton were in there too with them. Crewe go... Oh no, Fylde were relegated! I checked not that long ago, and Fylde were doing okay. Oh, I don't believe it. I'm so upset. That's such a shame. Crewe come up with Birmingham City, Millwall and Southend in there as well. Fylde, Blackpool, Newport County and Coventry City. Oh, that's such a shame. I swear Fylde were doing better than this. Oh, look at this. At one point, they were as high as 14th on the 17th of January, in fact. When our fortunes started to go really through the roof, they started to come down. They really were just... Oh, my God. That's devastating. I'm serious. The only 2 days that Fylde spent in the relegation zone in their entire season in League One was the opening match day and the final match day. That's... Oh, God, I feel so bad for them. I want to take over and rebuild them. Oh, God, that's such a shame. I really wanted them to do well. I love when a team comes up like that and pushes all the way into League One. I'm gutted for them. Anyway, moving on. League Two. What we got? Crewe got a lot of points, by the way, it would seem. This is really laggy this morning. So Doncaster, Burton Albion, Stevenage and the MK Dons in the playoffs. As for the league table, Oldham go up as champ. Wow, that's a really low points total. Cheltenham and Shrewsbury going up with them. Down go Cambridge United, relegated from the Football League, along with Carlisle United. Bill and Ricky having a pretty poor season, considering they were relegated from the League One last year. And let's check the final one of these leagues, which is, of course, the National League. Anyone amazing coming up, perhaps? Oh, note to self. I must have turned that off as well. There you go. So this year, Crawley Town, Northampton were runners-up, third place were Telford, and playoff winners were Telford. So Telford are coming up through the National League. I guess that's last year, Matt, you absolute nincompoop. Right, so with that done, let's get into the squad now. So, Pedro, he's injured at the moment, but we'll start with him and kind of just rotate through. So, yeah, he is left-footed. I am well aware of that. And, of course, playing an inside forward, but the thing is, he clearly has a reasonably good right foot. Otherwise... To me, he wouldn't be listed so good as... In fact, I think we can actually see... where is... There's definitely a page you can look at where you can have a look and see how his... I swear there's a way of finding out what his weak foot's like. Point is, I don't think him being left-footed is making a huge amount of difference. Let's face it, he's got 19 goals in the Premier League this year. I think he's doing just fine for his first season in England. However, and also, when people suggest things like, oh, you should retrain him to be a winger, or retrain him to be an inside forward on the right-hand side, you don't realise just how much of a change that would require. Not just to Pedro, but to the entire squad. Like, the inside forward role isn't just an interchangeable role in that position that we can switch out for a winger. If we switch out the inside forward role on that left-hand side to be a winger, it means that our left wing-back position of the likes of Bednar and whatnot, that would need to change as well, because they would get in each other's way. We then also find that he wouldn't be making the same kind of run, so he wouldn't have to get on the end of the crosses so easily. So that would need to change. There's an awful lot of things that need to change just to make one little change like that, particularly when I don't think we really need to. I think we're kind of all right at the moment. Like, little role changes, perhaps in the centre midfield you can get away with that a bit more, but you can clearly see where we're scoring our goals from and why everything is so finely balanced and why it took me such a lot of analysis to actually get us to work within what I wanted to do again. So, you know, it might seem like a little change, but those things can have a huge sort of butterfly effect throughout the rest of the team, and that's why you've got to be very careful when making changes like that. Just because it's his best position does not mean it's the best position for the squad. Do I believe that we could get more out of him if he was playing as a winger? Yes. But that would be on an individual level and not on a team level, and I feel like we would play worse overall if we had to try and adjust the entire team around Pedro. Anyway, Pedro, what a man, what a man, what a mighty fine man. Lovely old job. Moving on, Arnaud Puimau. Now, he's been kind of out of the way this season. He's made a few appearances in the Premier League. Hasn't really done a lot. He's got booked. He's, fallen massively down the pecking order, which is a shame because he finished last season very strong, but there you go. He is wanted by a few teams though, so who's he wanted by? Bristol City, newly promoted. Well, if we could ship him off for like £5 million to Bristol City, I will be ecstatic with that. I can see some dead weight being moved on across the summer. I've also seen some people question whether we need to do anything about the foreigners in our squad for the Europa League next year. No, because remember, they're all really young, so it makes no difference. Firstly, I believe that players under a certain age don't have to be registered anyway. They count as like a plus, so that's fine. And we've also got a fair number of English players in the squad anyway because of all our youngsters that have come through at the club and are doing okay here as well. So I wouldn't worry too much. And a lot of these guys will count as homegrown soon anyway, which is why I buy them so young, to enable us to get that kind of advantage. So I think we'll be totally fine, but I will be careful over the summer that we don't sign too many more, particularly of older age, to make sure. If I find any great English players, I will try and pick them up, but remember, they are very, very expensive, which is why I think Andy Davison definitely has to stay, because he's homegrown, English, and he counts towards the quota for European football, and he's not bad, is he? So, moving on from Puimau, Petar Pusic. Yeah, I mean, he's only on loan, so it makes no difference, really. He's going to be going back. I am going to look for another DM this season. It makes sense to do so, since I still don't think Charlie Dyer is going to unlearn that PPM. He's already failed it once, so it seems unlikely. Morgan Roussel. I'm a fan of this lad. I think he's developing very, very nicely. He's listed as a wonder kid, which is nice. His physicals are improving. He's still not the tallest, but he's got great heading, marking and tackling. He really is coming along leaps and bounds. Still only 18 years old. He's on a new contract too. I don't know if there's a release clause in it or not. I think there is, though. 75 million, which is better, I guess, than it was before. It was like 40 million. So it's improved, but it's still not great. I wish that this year it does seem that they're way more stingy when it comes to release clauses, in that you offer them a contract and they'll instantly put in non-negotiable release clauses and you can't get rid of them, which is a pain. Ingo Saferings, well, you know, he's not going to be here next year. So, in fact, he's joining Stuttgart, apparently. There you go. Stephen Shanahan, young goalkeeper, still got a long way to improve. I think he was out on loan at Bolton for most of this year. No, he wasn't. What we're talking about, that was Chris McAllen. Greg Stubbsy, one of our youth prospects, and I think there's a lot more to him, actually. I think he could be another potential Craig Palmer, frankly. And remember, he's English, homegrown, lots to like about him. He'll get some game time, potentially, against some of the weaker sides in the Europa League, for sure. I want to use those games as an opportunity to try out some of these guys as well. It's extra cup games, you know. Tala Kanmaz, absolute legend. Really has developed nicely. He's got 5 caps for Turkey now. When he first came in, I was a little bit unsure because his potential and current ability had sort of dropped off. But I feel like now that he's been playing regularly for us, he is a monster. He's 6'5". He's got great physicals. He's a perfectionist, a wonder kid. 16 heading, 16 marking. I always say that. And 16 tackling. There's a long way for this guy to improve, but I feel like this guy's got world class written all over him. Hopefully, anyway. And it's good because Roussel and Kanmaz, I feel like, could be our centre back pairing for years to come. And it's certainly not an area that I'm going to look to strengthen in, because having 2 4-star Premier League centre-backs is fine by me. Like, I'm really pleased with that for now. And a decent backup in Cardigan Makengo. Carlos Toril, he's on loan at Burnley. He's done the second half of the season there in the Championship. I can't actually. Yes, he is in the Championship with them. He's done okay. He's a bit annoyed at me, so he might leave. I'm not entirely sure, but particularly as we barely ever use an attacking midfielder anymore. So he and Callum Gribbin might be on the chopping block, so to speak. Wilson, our goalkeeper, 22 years old. You can see his potential abilities. There's a ceiling there, but I still feel like there's a bit more to get out of this guy. And he's given me no reason to want to get rid of him. 11 clean sheets this year. He only conceded 39 goals so far this season, and I think that's a real step up. You've seen the amount of games that he has saved us in. Sure, at some point we might need to get a slightly better keeper, but for now, Wilson is definitely my man for that job. Zé Maria, 27 years old. He's worth £4.1 million, and he might be another one that I might try to move on. Cagliari are interested in him, and if they're willing to pay a few £1 million for him, we got him on a free transfer. I would be happy to move someone like Zé Maria on, look to bring in another guy in that position as a backup perhaps, and keep John Okora around, or maybe move him out on loan or something. But there's a few of these guys that I feel like we can move on to bolster our transfer funds, particularly if clubs are actually interested in them, you know. And Abasolo, what a man. He has really taken the bull by the horns this year, the 21-year-old Spaniard. Really good season. 11 goals in the league, 8 assists. He really did get better as the season went on. I think there's still room for improvement for him, but he gets forward whenever possible, knocks ball past opponent. He's working on running with the ball down the right as well, which is very nice, a very John Okoro-esque, so he might even become even more like John Okoro, and I'm all right with that. Lovely old job. Akwebu, he has been one of my standouts this year. 29 appearances in the league, 3 goals, 4 assists. He's dominated that role. The role that I kind of thought was going to be Andy Davidson's this year still. He has very much taken and run with it himself, the 19-year-old German. I think he's got a bright future at this club still, and long may it continue. Hopefully he will continue to improve. He's had a really good year, and he's also been one of the better passers. 86% pass completion. I think only Mello has a slightly better one, but we'll check. Bicester. Now, this is a weird one for me, because, for a start, I think that's just because we've just played a game. But he's only 20, and yet they've already sort of capped off his potential, which is kind of interesting. So I do wonder about Joseph Bicester, and if perhaps there was an opportunity to move Bicester on and maybe bring in someone who's better in every area, and I would have to be very careful about this, then I wouldn't be above the idea if I could find someone willing to pay a lot of money for the guy. Remember, we paid virtually nothing for Joseph Bicester, and he is on nearly £70,000 a week. So, let me know what you think about that. Obviously, by the time you see this video, I'll have already recorded the transfer episode, but it's definitely something to consider. If the offer is right and I can find a guy who I think is a lot better, then I would be willing to do a deal like that, basically, because I wonder about Joseph Bicester. It's just a theory. Kamil Bednar, the Czech wonder kid, he is going to be our left back, I can sense, for quite some time. To be fair, I think there's a lot more to come from him. 2 goals, 5 assists in the Premier League this year. Decent amount of dribbles. He hits his shots on target reasonably. Wins a lot of tackles. He puts good ratings in every single season, basically. 20 years old and already has 19 caps for the Czech Republic. I think he's going to be with us for a long time. I think 3 of our back 4, frankly, 4 of our back 4, if you include Bruno Bridges, are going to be with us for quite some time, frankly. And that's really nice to have that core of the side sorted. I'm really pleased with that. Regan Booty now. Yeah, this is going to take a little while. Regan Booty, he's kind of fallen out of favour this year. He got a few assists in the early part of the season, but I do wonder if someone was to come in for Regan Booty. Then again, he's English again, so it'd be worth holding on to him just to keep him as a backup so we can boost out the squad with some English players. I think that's quite important, because I am still concerned about that, but I don't think it's as big an issue as some people might think it is. Piero Bolina. He's weirdly listed as a wonder kid, but I don't think he's that good. He's decent, and he's done okay as a backup, mostly playing off the bench. No goals in the league for us this year at all. He got 1 goal in the Carabao Cup, so he's not been great, but he's not really been given much of a chance, in all honesty. He's started 3 games in the FA Cup, didn't score a single goal, started 2 games in the Carabao Cup and got 1. Done alright in the European Under-20 Elite League, though, so this maybe a loan spell for Bolina perhaps might be in his future. I'm not really sure. Nemanja Boskovic, he spent most of this year out on loan at Derby, I think. He played 1 game, which was the final game of the season after returning from his loan spell. He's one for the future. He's still fine, and there's still a lot to like about this guy, but he's still 20 years old, though. I gotta say, he's not, maybe another loan spell. I'm not really sure about him at the moment, to be honest. Bruno Bridges. What more is there to say about old Bruno, my man? 18 starts in the Premier League this year. I believe, if I'm not wrong about this, yeah, he's actually had a better season this year than he did last year. That's mental. His average rating was actually higher in his second season in the Premier League than it was in his unbelievable first season in the Premier League. In fact, he's had his best season since we were in League 2, to give you an idea of how good Bruno Bridges has been for us. That his second best season of his career. He's having an Indian summer, it's fair to say. Moving down, Keith Burton, who's been out on loan at Wimbledon this year, he really has fallen off a cliff for us. I thought he was going to be the big, bright future of the club. And then he just sort of fell out of favour. He's gone to Exeter, gone to Wimbledon, and he's not really impressed at either of those 2 clubs, in all honesty. And he probably will leave in the summer, to be honest. Andy Davidson. He's worth a lot of money. He's still a pretty decent player, but I do think there's better players in the squad. But the fact that he's English could really, really help us. And I can keep his wages down because I don't think he's ever going to get an international call-up. So I can kind of keep the international wage clause there, sort of dangling it over him to keep his wages down in theory. Although, I could get absolutely screwed if he does get called up for England. But if he does, that'd be my fault, wouldn't it? He's come up through the leagues with us and done an all right job. He's made how many appearances in the league? I mean, that's what, 13? He's got 2 goals for us this season. His passing's a lot worse, though, than some of the other guys in the team. Even Dimitrov really hasn't played a great deal, mostly off the bench this season. Still a decent player, but he is very much a backup to Bednar, and as long as if we keep him, then that's fine, because he's a very solid backup. He's a really, really good number 2 to have. Charlie Dyer, again, as you can see, gets forward whenever possible. He's not unlearned the trait yet. There's still hope for him. I'm still holding out hope that he can do a job in there, because he does look good, and if anything, I think his current ability seems to have changed a bit more, which is nice. And if he could just shake that, I think he could be a monster. But I am going to be on the lookout for someone that doesn't have that PPM, because I'm still not confident he's going to shake it. Niall Ennis will, of course, be off in the summer. He's been on loan at Hull City. Yeah, he's done all right for us in his period at the club. You know, he made 52 appearances and has got 9 goals. John Gray, yeah, you might wonder what happened to John Gray. He's actually been on loan over at Malmö since the January transfer window. I totally forgot to mention this, because he wasn't getting game time for us, and I just thought, you know what? He deserves to play some football. He's played 156 games for Stockport County in his career. But he needed to play some football, so he's gone out on loan to Sweden for a little bit. I'm not really sure when he's going to be back from that one, in all honesty, because of the way the Swedish leagues work. Callum Gribbin, he's on loan at Derby at the moment because they're in the playoffs, so he's still there. He's got 5 goals and 2 assists for Derby. If I could move Callum Gribbin on, I might do, but again, it comes back to the English factor. Having those guys around the squad could just be very useful for that type of thing. We'll have to see. John Hume, though, is contracted to us at the moment. He's another one of our young homegrown players, a pretty solid centre midfielder who... he's not amazing, but he's definitely in the conversation at the moment, and that's fine by me, really. So yeah, long may he continue. Liam Hunter is another one of these guys, basically. More of an attacking midfielder, but again, he's definitely worth keeping around the club if we can do, although he is starting to get a bit annoyed at me, so I probably should give him a new deal if I can, particularly as he only has a year left. Hopefully he'll actually listen and want to do that. Roland Kipper is, of course, out on loan at Stahl Miewitz. He's played 68 times for them now, and he puts in solid performances, but he's never really ever going to be good enough to play for us full time, really. But hey, it's nice. He's got a cap for the Ivory Coast now, which is good too. Kit Kat. If someone wants him in the summer, I will be happy to move Kit Kat on for any amount of money, frankly, just to shift him off the wage bill, because he's not on a load of money, but it would be nice just to, get some money back for that deal. Elvedin Kubat, here's a strange one. You know, sort of centre midfielder. He's another one of these ones that I wouldn't be opposed to potentially selling in the summer if there was a decent bid for him, though he does have a good personality. I don't know. Again, it's one of those things. Clint Lehmans, he's got 1 more year left in his contract. I think if someone comes in and wants to bid for this guy, I'd happily move him on for like £1 million, to be honest, because I want to clear out some of these guys. Cardo Makengo definitely needs to stay here. He's definitely our 3rd choice centre-back, and frankly, when he plays, he does do well. 7.16 in the games he's played this season. It's not to be sniffed at. Mark McGowan, of course, is our other backup centre-back. He's only played once for us this season, but, you know, he's fine, I guess. And David Mello, of course. Really, really good year from David Mello. 4 goals, 1 assist, an average of a 7.26, 87% pass completion. He is very, very good. Like, excellent, and frankly he'd probably be better as the deep line playmaker in this team. So I'm thinking maybe if we try and sign a better box-to-box midfielder, Mello could compete with Akwebu for the deep line role, because Mello is an absolute beast. Really, really pleased with him. The fact that he cost us 13 million, I think there's a lot more to come from him. I don't know how many more of these guys there are. Liam Miller, of course, our Canadian genius. He is wanted by a few sides, which is not a huge surprise there. Southampton are interested in him. I definitely want to keep Liam Miller though, because he is a really, really good backup, and as you can see, 6 goals in the league for us this year. I'm all right with that. Louis Molden has played. Oh, he actually has played 3 times for us. So that's nice to see. John Okoro. It's back to being Nigerian again. I don't know about old Johnny O. He's still only 21 years old. I reserve the right to see what will happen with Johnny O, and we're back to Pedro again. Right, so let's get into the league stats, since we're already 23 minutes into this goddamn video. This is going to be a long one, boys. Right, let's get the Premier League up. So me doing what I did just then, I think is going to allow us a little bit less time on the back end, because I've kind of discovered a few things just from looking at some of those guys about what we might want to do in the summer. Anyway, so possession, relatively middle of the table. Man United, 14 penalties is still a bloody lot of penalties. That is a crazy amount. We had 5, which is fine, I guess. Headers 1, we're right up there. Headers 1 ratio, we're top of the table on that one, which is nice. We've got some big headers of the ball in the team. Yellow cards, we're still up there, but like it's much closer than Southampton with 80 is a lot. I think we've had 1 red card this year. I can't remember who it was. To be fair, Bednar should have had 1 as well. The form part is literally irrelevant. Right, goals scored. Man City, 107 goals scored this year. We definitely improved on last year. Not by much, only by like 3 or 4 goals, but it's still an improvement in the right direction. And that's kind of what was key for me, was improving the defence and improving the attack. City flying away with that one. Shots completion, there we go. That's what, oh, cross completion, 20%. That is phenomenal. Very, very curious to see who those have come from. Crosses completed, second most. Goals from corners. Not the most, but we scored 5, which isn't too bad. It's not great, though. Goals from direct free kicks, yeah, 2 of those were against us, lads. We've scored 4 direct free kicks this year. That's really nice. Indirect free kicks, only one. Only one, and that was the Talha Kamaz one against Fulham. Not ideal. Pass completion, sort of middle of the road at 77. As we improve, that will certainly change. Passes completed, Stoke have completed the most. Interesting. Chances created, 101 chances. Right, this is key for me. The fact that we've created the most chances in the Premier League by 6 clear, and like massively clear of most other people, means we are literally just finding the right combination of players and instructions away from being absolutely lethal in this league, in all honesty. Like Manchester City's got 107 goals off of 67 chances. Shots on target ratio is now the highest in the division. Very, very nice. Hugely a fan of that. I wonder if our conversion rate has improved. Remember, it was 6% when we looked earlier this year. Shots on target, 302. Wait for it. Oh, yes, look at that. Okay, right. This is very important. When we looked, some of you might not have watched the extra analysis I did, although I'm guessing most of you that watched this probably did. But just to recap, during that video, we were down, I think, 19th place in the Premier League for conversion, right? We were on 6%. Now, come the end of the year, we're 8th in the league on 11%. Basically tied nearly. We're nearly towards the top end of this. This is the thing. If we'd done a full season of playing in the way that we are, I think Champions League football wouldn't have been out of the question. But that's fine. Dribbles per game, nice, we're up there. Defending, right, this is kind of interesting. Look, 8th best defence in the Premier League. Much, much more like it. Tied 8th with West Ham. I said I wanted to concede under 50 goals this year, and we have. Only just, but it's like 14 goals less conceded than last year. That's a huge step up. Next year, I want to concede under 40, perhaps, because that would put us into sort of the real big area with all the big boys. Goals conceded from corners, middle of the road, conceded from indirect free kicks. Yeah, we still seem to struggle with that, although we've got better since I moved over to defending that specifically. Oh no, that's direct free kicks. It's this one where we really did struggle, yeah. I don't think we've conceded one since I moved over to defending free kick training before almost every single match. I think we were at 5 like 20 matches ago, and we're still at 5, so that's good. Clean sheets, 8th most with 12 in the league. That's not bad. 12 clean sheets is vastly better than it was before. Fouls, yeah, 2nd most, but we're not getting booked as much, which is fine. Tackles 1, overall tackles 1 ratio, 85 isn't too bad. Penalties conceded, none. We've conceded 4. Need to be careful on that one. Average attendance, yeah, still the lowest on 18,000. By capacity, oh dear. I guess it's because it's Bolton. No sellout. Oh no, we had 1 sellout, probably our last home game. Highest attendance was 28,000. I guess for Manchester City. Lowest one was yeah, us. No surprises there. Finances, net transfer spend. Yeah, we spent £67 million. But salary per annum, still the 2nd lowest in the league at 37 million. And that's saying something, considering we just came 6th in the Premier League with a salary of 37 million. We're one of the few clubs. Actually, not one of the few clubs. Quite a few clubs are considered rich. Anyway, let's move on to players. I'm interested in this one particularly. Right, player detailed. So laggy, man. Right, games won. These ones aren't super important. I guess that. Interestingly, no one on here for us. Kit Kat was notorious for this. Per 90 minutes, I'm interested. I feel like David Mello. He's got an engine on him, doesn't he? That's very interesting, actually. Average rating overall. Have we got anyone near this? Yeah, Pedro, not too bad. 7.38. Bednar on there too. And Abasolo. Very nice to see. Headers 1? Anyone at all? Yes, Joseph Beiser. Very nice. Okay, so goals, as we know, obviously, Pedro, 2nd in the command. But there you go. Joseph Beiser, 15 goals in the league. Joint 7th highest scorer. Abasola, joint 15th with his 11. That's not bad. Minutes per goal? Anyone got any advance on that one? Beiser's on there too. Abasola's played quite a few minutes. Most number of shots. Beiser, Pedro, Abasola, they're all on there, which is what I like to see. Shots on target. There we go. Starting to hit a lot more shots on target. Shots on target percentage. I want to see some players on here, please. Abasola, 58%, Pedro, 55%. Right, remember last year, we had players on here that were in the high 60s, low 70s. I believe for the second half of the year, their ratings have been much more like that, but the first half of the season, they definitely seem to be below. Conversion ratio. Pedro, 17% conversion ratio. I still feel like we had a player that was better than that last year, but that's just how it goes. Team goals, yeah, we were never going to be on that one, were we? Assists, have we got anyone close? Abasola with 8. It's not too bad. Key passes, we should have. There we go. Abasola, 62. Aquabu 65, Pedro 54, Mello 39, and Bisa even created a few. Who's the most creative? Abasolo is 16, Pedro 15, Bisa. Even Camille Bednar's creating chances. Really, really nice. We won't have anyone on this one, will we? Not quite, no. Cross completion? This is always an interesting one for me. Can we see anyone? So Abasolo 23, Aquabu 22, but that's the key thing for me. And Abasolo at 23%. That's a really, really good return. Defending team conceded. Tackles per game. Anyone at all? Charlie Dyer. You see? He's putting himself about a bit. You don't see Regan Booty on there at all, do we? I'd be very interested in looking at that as well. Mistakes into goals. None at all. Really nice. We're going to have a few on here, I sense. Yeah, Bednar, they always make mistakes because we are asking him to do a very difficult job, and I'm all right with that. Notice how he doesn't make any mistakes leading to goals, though. That's the key thing for me. Key tackles, Canmaz with 13. Doing the job. Brilliant. Key headers. No one on there at all. Okay. Interceptions. I was hoping Charlie Dyer would be on there, but I guess that's sort of not really part of his game that's that great at the moment. Headers 1. Charlie Dyer, 79. Where are our centre-backs? That is a bit confusing. Okay. Conceded, yeah, well, we kind of knew that was going to be the case. Wilson conceded 39. Clean sheets. He's got 11 because obviously one of the others. I think Shanahan got a clean sheet against Fulham, or it might have been Louis Molden. Saves held. Yeah, well, they've obviously had to face a lot of shots. So that's how we're looking on that one. I'm pleased. Now let's get into the analysis so we can decide what we're going to do over the summer. I already have a few ideas of what I want to do, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Just very quickly, wanted to show you the keepers. I know there's not a huge sample size here, but Wilson, less goals conceded per 90 minutes, massively over Shanahan, and decent amount over Louis Molden. He did make one mistake leading to a goal. Not sure which one that was. Decent amount of clean sheets, average rating through the roof. Wilson is the man for the job, let's face it. Although Shanahan, I still feel like could have a future with us as a number 2. Let's face it. Okay, this is the moment of truth for me, because there's enough minutes, I feel, particularly between Bridges and Saferings, to do a comparison there, and with Dimitrov and Bednar, less so to a certain extent, but I'm still kind of curious about this. So, I still want to find another right back. I love Bruno, you know I love Bruno, but we're not going to win a Champions League with Bruno Bridges as our right back. That being said, I'm still determined to give him an appearance in the Europa League next year, and frankly, he might well get some proper appearances for us. And I do want to make sure he will get an appearance in the Champions League for us one day. That would be really, really nice for him, just to top off his career, because let's face it, he'll be having a testimonial fairly soon, and I cannot wait for that game. We'll get all the old lads back in town. It's going to be great. I cannot wait for that option to pop up. But I think that will be... well, season 9, I don't know, either start of season 10 or season 11, not really sure where that one will come, because that's how we ain't winning the Champions League that quickly, so we're going to have quite a few more seasons in this save yet, and I can't wait to get stuck in, so I am still going to try and find a player. I want a Bednar for the right-hand side, basically, a slightly different type of player, sure, but I want him in that role. So, let's go and start with the most important ones. Number of assists isn't that important to me, it's these stats. So Dimitrov actually has a better record at providing assists than Camille Bednar, which is kind of interesting. As does Saferings have a better record of providing assists than Bruno Bridges. Important to note. You'll notice, though, that Bednar and Bridges both have much better average ratings than their two counterparts, so maybe it's more about other aspects than just providing the assists. So let's check at chance creation, which I think is quite important. Bednar does create more chances, but not by much compared to the others. Bruno Bridges definitely creates more chances than Saferings, more than double the number of chances per 90 minutes, which is interesting. Passes completed. Saferings and Bridges kind of even, and to be fair, the other two are kind of even, which suggests that you're going to complete more passes on the right, because I think you're slightly further back, which means you can knock the ball in field a bit more. Seems to be the case. And passes completed by 90 minutes. Again, it's very, very tight between the two of them. They're both basically matching each other. But the key thing is here, Bruno Bridges is still matching Saferings in most of these areas. And for a player of his quality, that does say a lot. Key passes per 90 minutes. Dimitrov, again, outdoes him. Saferings much better than Bruno Bridges in that position. So why is Bruno Bridges getting good ratings? It has to be the defensive side of things. It has to be. That's the only thing I can think of. Dimitrov actually does put in some really solid performances. Dribbles per game, he outdoes him. Bruno Bridges much better at the dribble, which, again, baffling to me. 10-6. How is Bruno Bridges doubling the number of dribbles that Safering puts out there? Crosses completed. Dead heats on both of them. 20s for those guys. 18s for the others. So what this is really showing me is that Ivan Dimitrov is an incredibly capable understudy to Camille Bednar, who frankly could do a job on his own of equal or comparable quality, and that's really nice. We are stacked in that left back spot. And remember, we've actually got we've got the likes of Eric Thompson-Svenningsson in that position as well as a potential backup, although he is on loan at Oxford, I think. So there's definitely other options there too if we really did get desperate. Now this is where things do start to get a little bit more interesting. Tackles 1. Bednar is vastly better defensively than even Dimitrov, and I think that's what makes him the first choice. That extra 15% tackles 1 is very good. And again, Seyfrieds beats out Bruno Bridges, as does he on interceptions too. Dimitrov's slightly better on that one. Bridges is again worse in the air, as you'd expect. But that being said, right, Enigo Seyfrieds, 6'5". Bruno Bridges, 5'11". And he's only 5% better at winning headers. Bruno Bridges really does play above himself in those areas. I guess it's because often he's up against diminutive wingers, so the height difference isn't quite so stark. It's interesting, for sure. Seyfrieds obviously won't be with us next year, but I do want to sign another player in that position. I'm completely happy in the left-back spot with Bednar and Dimitrov. Those two are sound, totally sound. I'm totally fine with those guys doing their jobs. Dimitrov is fine. Bednar is just that little bit better in the defensive areas, which is still important, despite him being a predominantly attacking role. He still has a job to do. So let's move into the centre-backs. Okay, so these are the 4 centre-backs that are first team. Now, obviously, there are more if I was to accept, Twiska, Morgan Williams, Mitchell, who, of course, will be leaving to join Porto in the summer. And Mikic, I suppose, and there's a few more down even further than that. But these guys haven't played minutes, so it's irrelevant. These guys have played minutes, and that's what's important. McGowan started 3 games, so I feel like he's still worth talking about, even though I still feel like he is nothing more than a backup player. I just want to see how Carter Makengo compares to the other two, really. So passes completed, Roussel and Kamaz. Mark McGowan's in there too, though. He is at least competing with them on the ground. Makengo a little bit worse off, but not a huge amount. Roussel, Makengo up there. Kamaz is completing less passes overall, though, which is interesting. Team goals per 90 minutes. So we score more goals with Makengo in the team, but it's negligible, and I'm not super bothered about that. And as you can see, Kamaz and Roussel, just slightly more key passes per 90 minutes. Now, why is that? Is that the stupid, one that only applies to goalkeepers? Right, this is kind of interesting now. So, Makengo and Roussel and Kamaz, to be fair, they're all fairly close to each other, and McGowan's, you can see, is starkly lower. So I think Makengo does a very, very good job when he plays, to be fair to him. Look at this. 95% tackles 1 ratio is vastly better than the others. He's given me reason to think that he could be a bit more than what he is, in all honesty. But what I would say is he is 5 years their senior. And he's not that much better than them. He's more interceptions, he wins more headers. And his average rating is also higher. Okay, so he's right-footed. He's 6'5". Are these both right-footed? No, this is the thing. I wonder if Makengo could even fight with Kamaz for his place next year, in all honesty. Because he's basically outdoing him in virtually every area. That's the thing. He's slightly worse in the pass, but we concede less goals with him in the team. He wins 4% more tackles. More than 1 full intercept more per game, and nearly 10% more headers despite being the same height. That is very, very interesting. So, because Kamaz is 6'5", Carter Makengo is also 6'5". He's got 12 heading and 16 jumping reach. Kamaz has 16 heading and 15 jumping reach. It makes no sense to me that Makengo should be winning all those headers. That is interesting, actually. Any ideas why? Because that is a really big amount of difference between those two. Maybe some of his mental stats are allowing him to get in better positions to win the headers, but Makengo, he's gone under the radar this year as a very, very solid player who could definitely do a job for us in the Premier League. Of a 7.30 is very, very good. They've all been decent, don't get me wrong, but Makengo is definitely a cut above at the moment, and I do wonder if he's earned himself a place in the starting 11 next year, or whether we should just persist with Kamaz, because he is going to continue to get better and better and better, and hopefully over time that will come. But if nothing else, Carter Makengo has certainly shown that he is one hell of a backup player to have, that's for sure. I still wouldn't mind signing another young centre-back with real potential, perhaps, if the money was right, just to keep that conveyor belt side of things going. But again, I'm really happy with the defensive side of things, other than the right-back spot. I think the rest of the defence is absolutely solid and could be our central defensive pairing for years to come, and that's pleasing to me. Right, let's move on to... let's do to the DMs. I'm very interested in this one. So, these are the DMs. Now, I haven't included Lehman's because he hasn't played a single minute for us this season in the league or cup or whatever, frankly, so he's not really relevant to this. Mainly, we're comparing Booty, Dyer, and occasionally the Pusic, the Poo Sticks, because I do want to see how Dyer's actually compared to Regan Booty, and I believe that he's going to do better in the defensive aspects and worse in the attacking ones. That's my prediction straight off the bat. So, passes completed. Pusic, interestingly, the best, Dyer the worst, but 81 still ain't bad, in all honesty. Booty does complete more passes, massively more actually, than Charlie Dyer, so it does show that Booty is more of a creative player in those areas, as is really definitely played out by the fact that the key passes, Dyer is much, much worse than Booty and Pusic, so he's definitely more of a defensive player than a guy that can launch an attack, so to speak. And though, interestingly, Booty's also on 92% of his tackles, and Dyer is 7% worse than him on that one as well. Very interesting. Now, Dyer does have more interceptions than Regan Booty, so there is that as a potential situation here. But look at this, right? Regan Booty's won 71% of his headers. When I was looking earlier this year comparing these two, Booty was down in the 40s. He really has upped his game. Dyer's not that much better in the air. He is winning more aerial challenges, and we do technically concede less with him in the team, but you could see what I mean about the fact that Dyer just does not seem to be performing. His average rating is worse. It's just genuinely worse. And I still don't think that even playing as an anchorman, he has improved. His form throughout the season has definitely improved since he moved to an anchorman. But I still don't think Charlie Dyer, even if we were to lose that, maybe if he was to shake that PPM, then there might be a hope that he could become a slightly better player. But I'm still not sure. I'm really not. I think that in the summer, I really do need to look for another DM and be a little bit more investigative with the PPMs, particularly to make sure that they're going to fit the style of play. And if I was able to move Charlie Dyer on, I wouldn't be opposed to it. In all honesty, I just don't think it's quite worked out for him here. And if I was to get any of that money back, I would be happy to do so, because I still feel like he could do a job for another team. He is only 22, but I just don't think it's us. And we might just have to take the hit on him and try to move on, or maybe just keep him at the club as a backup. And, you know, Pusic is going back on loan. Lehman's is going to be out for fairly soon. Bringing in another one and have Dyer and Booty as kind of backups to him, but spend a lot of money and bring in someone really high quality in that position. So far, the way I'm looking at it is goalkeepers were totally fine on, left back's totally fine, centre back's totally fine, but I wouldn't mind a young one just to boost that depth a bit. Right back is paramount, but again, we've really struggled to find one. Right back and DM are so far my positions that I'd be happy to spend 20 mil on each of those positions. Or if I can find a youngster, like a player that can do it now, but also have room to improve, then I'll happily bring them in as well, particularly if they were British. It would be nice to do that just because. But the thing is, Charlie Dyer is the one time I tried to do that and it's not worked out. And obviously that's just one example, but I really do want to find someone like that. And I have been scouting the youth intakes of all the British clubs as well, so don't worry about that. It's just, they're just so expensive, a lot of these players. That's the thing. You pay £20 million for a player who's not amazing. So that's really an area that we're going to have to look into in the summer, because if we could sort out the right back and DM, I think our defence would just... That's probably just bought us 8 less goals conceded per season just right there, frankly. So now move on to centre mids. So, central midfielders. Now, you've got to be careful about what positions these guys played in so we can compare apples to oranges. So, Davidson, Akwebu, and Kubat occasionally, I think, has played in the deep line role, whereas Mello, Puimal, Hume predominantly, and Kubat for the most part, played in the box-to-box role. Although I think Mello has been deployed as a deep line playmaker once. So we'll see. There's a couple more that there was one other guy who played not, like, for example, Boskovic only played like 19 minutes. So I didn't feel like it was worth including him in this because it's just not a worthwhile amount. So goals, for example, Kubat has the most in terms of his appearances there. Mello's got a decent amount as well. None for Hume and none for Puimal. Puimal's played a lot more games than Hume and minutes, but still, they've not played anywhere near as much as the other ones. That being said, Kubat has still scored 2 goals, despite only playing 600 minutes. So he's definitely got some goal-scoring touches to him, it's fair to say. Assists per 90 minutes, Akwebu is vastly better at that one, and none of the others have any at all. So Akwebu is definitely providing a few assists this year, which is nice. Now, this is really important. Akwebu and Mello definitely dominating on the pass completion. Everyone, even Andy Davison, down on 79%. That is a long way down from Akwebu. That's a full 7% less passes completed when they've played in the same role this year, and that's a noticeable difference. And Mello, you feel like perhaps if he was playing as a deep line playmaker, might have had an even higher one, as he would be required to do more of the passing sort of stuff. So, yeah, it does make you wonder about that one, doesn't it? But there you go, David Mello, the chances created. Hume does all right, though, to be fair to him. David Mello at .043. That's much, much more than any of the other box-to-box players, and Akwebu's not that far above it. It does make me wonder if perhaps playing David Mello instead of being box-to-box, because this is where he's played so far. And I do wonder if maybe deploying him, I mean, he's got that decent enough passing, but the great vision, the great work rate, he's an absolute monster in the midfield, and I just wonder, maybe deploying Mello as a playmaker might enable us to get more out of that position, just a tiny little bit. Like, Akwebu's good, but I feel like Mello might be even better. Maybe swap them over. How's Akwebu for a deep box-to-box? Yeah, his finishing's worse. I don't know about putting him there, perhaps. It's an interesting concept, if nothing else, to take a little look at. But look at that, 9 chances created. I mean, that is a lot for only 1,900 minutes played. When you look at this, for example, Akwebu 57 passes per 90 minutes, whereas Mello only 36. Imagine what he'd be like if he was playing in that position. He could spray things about, do all sorts of things, and as he improves, maybe there's room for him there. I don't know. I mean, look at this. This is the key thing for me, though. Key passes, these two are dominating. Akwebu and Mello with their over 2 key passes per game, whereas Davidson, Kubat, these guys are all sort of slowly tailing off. Like, these two here are clearly our first choice centre midfield partnership, and bear in mind they're only 17 and 19 years old. They're going to keep getting better, and I want to give them the opportunity to do so, and I don't see the point in signing someone to come in front of these guys when they're doing a really good job of it so far by themselves. Although, if an opportunity came in to sign the perfect box-to-box player, I might be tempted, and then move Mello across and have Akwebu take a back seat briefly. It's just a thought. This is another thing, though. Akwebu, 89% of his tackles have been won. He is really, really good in the defensive side of the deep line playmaker, which is weird because he's only got 8 tackling and 7 marking. Is his positioning great? Not really. I might actually just be tempted, just while we're here, to compare these two and just see where one benefits. So Akwebu is better in the physical aspects of the game, that's for sure, and he's also better at the technical aspects of the game. They're dead even on the speed, the vision side of things, but Mello is definitely better in the mentals. Let's just have a closer look here. So let's just see what's better. Deep line playmaker on support. Now, we play a deep line playmaker on defend, if I recall correctly. That might be wrong, bearing in mind, but I'm pretty certain we play a deep line forward on defend. Let me just check, actually, while we're at it. No, it isn't support. Okay, tell a lie. So we'll go with exactly what we want here. So, first touch, they're dead heat. Passing, Akwebu is definitely better, as is his technique, which is interesting. Anticipation, Mello is definitely better on that one, but his composure is worse. Decisions, it's negligibly better. Off the ball is dead heat. Teamwork, again, it's slightly better on Akwebu. They're both really good at vision and work rate to the point where it's not that important. Balance, Akwebu is better. I tell you what, actually, I'm tempted to keep Akwebu right where he is, in all honesty. I feel like Mello is probably better for the box-to-box role. Let's just see how that works out. Let's just see. Box-to-box support. I want to see who does better this one. So, yeah, Mello's better on that one. First touch is okay. His long shots are improved. Passing, again, is still worse, as we know, but he's got better tackling. His technique's slightly worse, but he's more aggressive. He's got better anticipation. He's braver too, which is nice. His concentration is better. Decisions is better. His positioning is the same. His acceleration is worse, as is his balance, but he's slightly... I don't know. I feel like I think we might still have these two the right way round at the moment. Just looking at this now. That seems to be the way I'm looking at it. Just, yeah... More shots on target, tackles 1. He's a proper workhorse, to be fair. Is there anything else here? Vision. See, his marking isn't great, so I don't know whether he'd do a great job there. Interesting. He's also much more consistent, too. How has he declined? How? It's certainly interesting, anyway. So, yeah, what I'm looking at from these guys... Let's just move on, actually, just so we can have a little look. Interceptions, anything important here? Davidson doing well on the interceptions. These two both struggling on the interceptions a little bit there. Davidson definitely is a better defensive player, apart from his tackling there. Headers 1. These two are obviously going to struggle here, but Mello is winning more headers than Akwebu. Akwebu, that's for sure. Headers 1 percentage is obviously going to be tiny. 49 and 52. That's fine. They're not the tallest. But team conceded per 90 minutes. Hume, Kubat, Akwebu, definitely low. Now, that's interesting. We can see quite a few goals with Mello in the team, interestingly. So there might be something to that. He's not got any Man of the Match awards this year, but he has got a higher average rating overall than Aquabu, which suggests to me, just like the report said, that Melo is more consistent. You're not going to get amazing performances from him constantly, but he's always going to be decent, whereas Aquabu seems to be able to put in really good performances and then has some real off days to go with it. So, I mean, that plays itself out perfectly right there. I'm still content with these two, in all honesty. I wouldn't mind signing a couple more youngsters in that position to see if they're any good, but to be perfectly honest, I think Aquabu and Melo could easily be our midfield pairing for quite some time unless I can find the perfect box-to-box player. Then I think I'm quite content with that. Like, we've got a lot of money to spend, but I don't want to be spending money for the sake of it, you know? Like, you can always strengthen, but I want to make sure these guys have got a chance to improve, and they're only going to do that by playing football. And they're putting these kind of numbers in the Premier League right now, so why won't they get better? It's the simple fact. I wouldn't mind a bit more height in the centre of midfield, but with Dyer behind them, it's done okay. I think he has actually aided them in that. So let's move on to the wingers now. Okay, so here are the wingers. We've got 5 of them. We've got 3 on the right, 2 on the left. Pedro and Miller on one side, Okoro, Zé Maria, and Abasolo on the other. I'm very interested in this one. So only a few of them have scored goals, which makes sense because they're the ones that have played the most minutes. So I'm interested in the difference between Pedro and Liam Miller. I mean, as you can see, though, they are virtually dead heated on that one. Miller's got 9 goals in 11. Well, it's because of the minutes played, though. So that's really, really nice to see. And Abasolo at 0.32. That's the key thing about that, though, is that Abasolo has scored goals. Zé Maria and Okoro, between them, have played just under 1,000 minutes and have not scored a single goal between them. So that does to me show that they are not quite capable of doing the attacking side of the game quite as well as Abasola. But, you know, there's still something to that perhaps. But it shows that Liam Miller is definitely keeping up with Pedro from a goal scoring standpoint. Now, of course, that would have been boosted by the fact that he scored a hat-trick on the final day against Chelsea. And that would have been a bit lower had it not been for that. But the fact is, he still scored a hat-trick on the final day against Chelsea. It still happened. One of those was playing as a striker, but that was because of my mistake, not because, you know. So assists per 90 minutes. Zé Maria has got 3 assists in 2 starts. That is really, really impressive. He's played half the number of minutes as John Okoro, and he's got more assists than him. Abasolo still doing okay, 10 assists so far this year too. I don't know if, you know, it's a bit of a small sample size there, really. I don't know if Zé Maria would actually be able to put that out over a full season, because I think he got 2 of those in the final game of the season as well, which was just a bit of a free-for-all in some ways. But Abasolo is nice and consistent. John Okoro is not too far behind him on that sort of stat, though, to be fair. So he's showing something from an assisting point of view. Miller is actually just slightly above Pedro on that one. But again, it's very, very tight. They're right level with each other for most areas. I'm curious to see whether one of them really does stretch their legs in a certain area. Chances created per 90 minutes. Zé Maria, again, flying out in front with 1.50, but again, not so sure. But again, Liam Miller, slightly more chances created than Pedro. In fact, 0.08 is a fair amount. Abasola up there nicely too, outperforming John Okoro as well there. So clearly Abasola is a better player than John Okoro. We didn't really need to know that. But it's just what Zé Maria is bringing to the table. I just still feel like if we could get money for Zé Maria, it might not be a bad idea to move him on, in all honesty. I know he's good, but I feel like we could do better in some ways, particularly and make a decent amount of profit on him as well, which is very important for me. But Liam Miller, again, outperforming Pedro on that. So crosses completed. This is a fun one for me. Zé Maria, 27. John Okoro, 24. And Abasolo, 23. Now, that's kind of interesting. Firstly, brilliant. John Okoro, 24% cross completion. It's showing that he still has it. To me, that's what it's showing. I feel like he's lost his ability to score as much, but I feel like his creativity and his ability to provide stuff for other people is still there. And again, Zé Maria dominating that one again. 27% is outstanding. But again, Miller 18, Pedro, sorry, flip the other way around. Miller 19, Pedro 18. Miller wins again, but it's still very, very tight. He's creating more chances than Pedro, but it's still really much of a muchness. So I'm sure at some point Pedro is going to come out on top, but I just don't know where yet. Passes completed. John Okoro, 75%. Really, really nice. That is vastly better than the other ones. He's linking up the play much, much nicer. Pedro, 73 compared to Miller's 69. So he's slightly better in terms of picking passes, but it's not a huge amount, you know? Passes completed. Pedro, again, is better than Liam Miller and completes more passes. Zé Maria with a nice amount. Right, this is kind of an interesting one. Key passes per 90 minutes. Zé Maria, of course, up there on top. Abasola doing nicely. Pedro massively outperforming Liam Miller here. That is a huge difference. He's providing he's better with his passing, but he's also providing better quality passes. So I feel like his weirdly, you feel like he'd have more assists and you'd create more chances doing that, but maybe that's just a blip. I don't know. It's certainly interesting, though. But Zé Maria, again, Abasolo doing nicely. John Okoro's not too far behind. Shots on target, this is important. Abasolo is massively... this is the thing. John Okoro's shots on target ratio has fallen dramatically from where it was in, like, the 60s before. It's fallen off a cliff, essentially. Zé Maria's nicely up there, but he might have only had, like, 4 shots, and he's hit 3 of them on target, to be honest, so that could be a factor in that as well. Abasolo, 59 is good. Miller, again, right in there with Pedro at 54 and 55, nice and level. Miller is still really performing at a very, very high level, and that's pleasing to me. Shots on target per 90 minutes. Miller, again, slightly outperforming Pedro, but that's fine. Abasolo hitting the target much, much more than the others, which is testament to that. Dribbles per 90 minutes. John Okoro actually the lowest again. Miller down there too. Pedro much, much better in the dribble. Not that we were really hugely surprised by that. So what I'm seeing here is that Abasolo is definitely our best right winger still. Across the board, he is just the best. Zé Maria, over the course of a season, I just don't think he can keep up those kind of numbers. Obviously, we can't be sure, but it doesn't... I don't really think he could do that over a full season. It seems unlikely, but you never know, but... I think he's just had some very good games when he has played, and fair play to him for doing that, of course. I still feel like John Okoro might have something to offer, particularly from a creative standpoint, but I don't see him getting us goals, and we kind of need goals from that wing as well to get on the end of Pedro's passes and whatnot. So Pedro and Miller, I'm still happy with those two there. Pedro with Miller as the understudy, because Miller can clearly do a job. He's clearly just as good in many areas, just not quite in the dribbling, passing kind of area. That's where Pedro really does excel. But he's finishing the chances. He's creating goals. He's putting goals in the net. You can't deny the fact that he's doing those things. It's fair play to him for that one. The right-hand side, though, I wouldn't mind signing another young up-and-comer, mainly to sit in there and just give us a bit more depth. But again, it's not a position that I'm particularly worried about still, because I think Abasolo's really, really good. But still, maybe looking for someone in the future, because we've not got anyone who's got that 5-star potential on this right-hand side, really. When you look, it's fairly low for the most part. Abasolo's fairly close to it, but we'll see when he turns 22. It'll probably drop quite a lot down to about here. Probably find he's already at its peak in that sense, but we'll see. Moving on to strikers. Now, I'm still kind of curious about this one. Now, with strikers, it really is between Bicep and Borlina, but it's mostly Bicep, isn't it? But Greg Stubbs is still there, so we're just going to, like... I love that. Goals per 90 minutes. None. Even though he's scored one. He's made 2 substitute appearances and scored a goal. We can't really take much into the Greg Stubbs situation, but it's just nice to be able to look at this guy, you know? So goals per 90 minutes. Bicep, you can see, clearly way, way more than Borlina in that one. He's got assists to his name. He creates more chances than him. Crosses completed is slightly less, to be fair. Completes more passes. Completes more passes. More key passes? No, actually. Borlina's slightly more key passes. And he is hitting his shots on target a bit more, but Bice is hitting more shots on target. And a lot more shots in general. Bice is better in the air. He's winning more headers. He's not dribbling as... He's dribbling more than Borlina, but not as much as Greg Stubbs. But, yeah. There's a limit to what we can read into this, because Bice has played 40 games for us in this season and has been... decent. You know, he's got 19 goals for us this year. It's not too bad. But I do feel like if the opportunity arrived for me to actually sign someone who was an absolutely fantastic striker, then I would take the opportunity. Because I feel like Bicep is a good player for now, but I feel like I want a striker that can get us 20 goals a season, really. I've always wanted that in this save, you know that, but I feel like now we're in a position where we can actually get away with a striker that could do that, and I do wonder if we can improve on Josef Bicep. I believe that we can do. It might cost us a bit. Remember, this guy did not cost us much money at all. Just over £500,000, and he's worth 18 million now. Particularly if we were able to move him on, then I might consider it. But I don't know. I mean, to be honest, he'd be one hell of a backup striker to have. Bringing him off the bench would be quite something to have. There is a couple of guys going around. There's a guy called Rildo that plays for Paris Saint-Germain that I've been looking at. Yes, I know his name sounds like Dildo. That would be even more fun. And there's still that Jon Villa guy that played for Monaco that I've been looking at for a couple of years. He's probably good enough to get a work permit now, and he's still better. So I do wonder about that. I really, really do. He's still considered a wonder kid, though, so I don't know about that one. Do let me know what you think about that. And that kind of brings us to the end of this video. Now, word of the day, word of the day, word of the day. What is the word of the day? The word of the day is going to be Brooklyn, which is the name of this knockoff Actimel drink I've currently got sitting in my desk, because Aldi drinks are good. So that'll be the word of the day. Drop that in the comments if you've got this far into the video. So, as always, if you want to see more of these videos like this, and if you've got any ideas for stuff I can put in them, drop a like on the video. It helps I mean, it doesn't really help push these up the rankings, let's face it. This is stuff that you'd have to be really into this save to be interested in, so I wouldn't worry about that. But if you're enjoying them, do drop a like anyway. It lets me know that you want me to keep doing them. And if you're new to the channel and this is the first video of mine you've seen, strange choice, but there you go. Welcome to the club. And yeah, hit that subscribe button. That would be awesome as well. And I'll join you guys in the next episode tomorrow for transfer goodies. Lord knows what I'll have done in that period, but expect the pimp suit back, no doubt. And I'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.